The main issue,
sir. 1 second. You just did it. You just did it again. Why do you insist on questioning her racial identity? I want you to answer my question.
George, now that you're done yelling at me, let me answer.
George Stephanopoulos of ABC News is notorious for his rabbit attacks, especially since he doesn't even hesitate to shame rape victims if it helps him to push his narrow-minded agenda. And in this interview with Trump ally Byron Donalds, the left ABC extended propaganda arm of the left has once again proven what true ideological blindness looks like. Don't forget to subscribe. Let's get started.
Let's bring in Republican Congressman and Trump ally Byron Donalds. Congressman, thank you for joining us this morning. Why is former President Trump questioning the Vice President's racial identity?
Well, first, George, in Chicago, he was responding to a question from, I believe, Rachel Scott. Like, this is really a phony controversy. I don't really care. Most people don't. But if we're going to be accurate, when Kamala Harris went into the United States Senate, it was AP that said she was the first Indian-American United States Senator. It was actually played up a lot when she came into the Senate. Now she's running nationally. Obviously, the campaign has shifted. They're talking much more about her father's heritage and her black identity. It doesn't really matter. The president mentioned it. What he also talks about far more frequently is the fact that Kamala Harris is the person who created this massive inflation, which is destroying black families, white families, Hispanic families. It's her failure as border czar that has left our southern border wide open, more than 10 million illegal immigrants coming into our country, record fentanyl coming into our country, which has killed more Americans than at any other point in the history of our country with respect specifically to fentanyl, and the fact that she and Joe Biden have unleashed one of the worst foreign policies in the history of our country that has us on the verge of World War III. That is Kamala Harris's record. President Trump talks about that frequently, but yes, he did mention it in Chicago in response to a question from Rachel Scott.
And you just repeated the slur again. If it doesn't matter, why do you all keep questioning her identity? She's always identified as a black woman. She is biracial. She has a Jamaican father and an Indian mother. She's always identified as both. Why are you questioning that?
Well, George, first of all, this is something that's actually a conversation throughout social media right now. There were a lot of people who are trying to figure this out. But again, that's a side issue, not the main issue. The main issue...
Sir, 1 second. You just did it. You just did it again.
Of the United States.
Why do you insist on questioning her racial identity?
You want me to talk?
I want you to answer my question.
George, now that you're done yelling at me, let me answer. He talked about it on the stage yesterday in Atlanta for, 2 minutes? He spent more than 35, 40 minutes going after her record, talking about how radical of a senator that she was. She was the most liberal senator in the United States, in the United States Senate. That is a fact. He talked about the job that she did as vice president of the United States, a job, I will add, which has been a failure for the American people. I know you guys like to glom on to this that he talks about in jest or in a serious manner for about a minute or so, but what you do not cover is the litany of failures of Kamala Harris. That's what you're not covering, George.
I'm very surprised, and the only question I have is, why is a white man shouting a black man? I think I'm just saying what we are all probably thinking. Could it be that George Stephanopoulos is a closet racist who hides his hatred for a younger, good-looking black man behind a phony moral debate about Kamala? I mean, how else you can explain why this so-called political activist or journalist, whatever, they're basically the same these days, get so worked up over this topic that it blows up completely? I say, let's find it out in the next scenes. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, because might you just fall off the chair, and we definitively want to see you back here. Let's keep rolling.
So questioning somebody's racial identity for a couple minutes is okay?
George, I'm going to tell you again, he brought it up. AP is the one that wrote the headline when she first came in to the United States Senate. Didn't talk about her being black, talked about her being the first Indian American senator. AP brought that up. I mean, George, we could have this conversation for the entire segment, but none of this matters to the American people. What matters to the American people is, are we going to have the same policies of the Biden-Harris administration that has been destructive of the American people, or are we going to have the policies of the Trump administration, which put America first, had low inflation, prosperous Americans, no matter your race, no matter your color, no matter your creed, and a foreign policy that kept America safe. Those are the facts that truly matter, because this issue is going to come and go. The lives of the American people is what's going to remain, and that's what matters more than anything else.
If it doesn't matter, I don't understand why you keep on repeating it, why the president keeps on repeating it, why those introducing the president yesterday
George,
keep on
actually,
repeating
I'm
it.
not the one who keeps repeating it. George, you're the one that's bringing it up now. That's you.
You've done it,
I understand why
sir.
you
You've done it.
up.
You've done it 3 times. Every single answer
George,
you gave me. Now let me finish, sir.
George,
Every single answer you gave, you repeated the slur.
You asked me, George. That's why I'm pushing back on you now. George, you
Right,
asked me the question 3 times. I responded, but I'm
And
also
every
about
single
what
time you
truly
repeat
matters
the
in this
slur.
election.
That is exactly my point. You simply can't say that it's wrong.
George, so then what you're saying, and I want to get off this topic because it's not the only thing that's going on. But George, now you're saying that AP is the one that slurred Kamala Harris, because those are the facts. You can go to the internet and look at the clips, George, if you want to, or we can talk about this now. I prefer to talk about the future of our country, because the American people are struggling. The American people do need serious policy decisions to be made, and they need serious leadership on the world stage. Kamala Harris has not proven that she can do that. Donald J. Trump has proven that he can do that.
AP did not say that Kamala Harris is not black. She is biracial. She is Indian. She is black. You continue to repeat the fact that you continue to repeat the slur. I don't understand why you and the president do it, but it's clear you're not going to say that it's wrong. And you've now established that for our audience. Trump also said at the convention that he would
George,
pardon January 6 rioters.
Everybody look for themselves. Let's move on.
I've already said that. Go
Look on the
ahead.
internet, everybody. Let's move on. There we go.
So, go on and repeat the slurs again.
George Stephanopoulos is such a charming guy, isn't he? And I completely understand his perspective. The man is in panic. I mean, where would we be if we are starting judging Democrats by their actual performance instead of their background and skin color? God forbid, most of their party loyalists would have to pack their bags. So of course they shut down any criticism by labeling everything the opposition says as structurally racist. I mean, it's easier to smear the messenger than to fix the problem. But what really amazed me is how many people willingly turn a blind eye to reality and keep voting for the party that's clearly roking the country, the economic, everything straight into the ground. Never underestimate the power of propaganda, folks. So make sure you subscribe to this channel, because here you will get your daily dose of mental antidote. And if you are really in the mood to watch a fanatic lefty journalist try to twist reality with words, check out the next video, J.D. Vance, and an aggressive ABC reporter who eventually throws in the towel, because Vance knows how to stand his ground. Just click here and keep the journey going. Thanks for watching, and we will see us next time.